Hey everybody, welcome back to the Giver Method channel. My name is Jake and I'm glad you're able to join me today. Now I want to dive into something that, I like to help guide people through. I call it the gift integration method, where we look at how we can weave your strengths, your gifts, your superpowers into the work that you're already doing. And in reality, this might be something that has been missing, it might be the missing piece you've been searching for to really start to step into who it is that, you're meant to be, to live a more fulfilled life and make a greater impact. Because if we get real for a second, I want you to think have you ever looked at your work and, maybe you're staring at your desk or the endless to-do list or another full calendar of meetings and you thought man, this just isn't for me. Do you know deep down you got something special? It's in you, right? Gifts, perspectives, the way you see the world that, could actually make a real difference. But somewhere along the line, you started maybe hiding it or holding it back. Maybe it's because you thought your workplace wasn't ready for the real version of you, right? Maybe it's because you need a paycheck to support your family and you can't just go down that road. Maybe it's because you convinced yourself that someday the stars will finally align and that perfect job will appear, and then you'll bring everything that you have to the table. I mean, you could be a parent who maybe you feel like you're stuck choosing between keeping things stable for your family and actually using your gifts in ways that light you up. You keep showing up, paying the bills, but you come home drained with nothing left in the tank. Or if you're an entrepreneur, maybe you've built something that works on the outside but feels totally disconnected from who you are on the inside. You're wondering how to bring the more of your real self back into your business without blowing the whole thing up. Or maybe you're an employee working that 9 to 5 who feels like a misfit in the role. You don't fit the role that you're in. You think you have to maybe completely start over if you want to use your strengths in any sort of a meaningful way. If any of that sounds familiar or connects with you, resonates in even a little bit, then you're going to want to stick around. And I want you to know that if you resonate or if that sounds familiar, you are not alone. You're not stuck with where you are. What we're really talking about today is breaking out of that feeling of this professional disconnection that there is. And when you're showing up in the room, but you're leaving your soul at home. There's that authenticity suppression that you're doing where, you get really good at blending in that you almost forget who you actually are as a part of that. There's purpose, your purpose is starving. It's wanting to get out. And when your gifts are hungry for expression, they never get fed. You're just going to end up feeling overwhelmed and burnt out. And so I want to dive deep into that today. And my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder. I'm the author of this book called The Giver Method. Came out in November. Since coming out, it's become an Amazon bestseller. It sold thousands of copies, and there's tons of 5-star reviews. And people love it because of a couple reasons. Number one, everything's grounded in my own story. I can relate to being a parent, the entrepreneur, the person working 9 to 5, because I've been all those. I'm a father of 3. I'm an entrepreneur. I've worked in that corporate world for years and years. And so I know the struggles. I've been there, and I can see how you can work your way through to living a more fulfilled life. So people love that it's grounded in the realness of where they're at in life. The other one is that every chapter has worksheets, assignments, exercises, action items, things that you could do that fit into your schedule that allow you to start making progress towards discovering your gifts and superpowers, unleashing them to create more impact and influence, creating value for others, having deeper, more meaningful relationships. Like I said, just living a more fulfilled life, having more joy and delight in your life. So I highly recommend that you go get yourself a copy. I'll put a link down below where you can get it on Amazon, or you can go directly, you can pause the video, go to Amazon, look up The Giver Method by Jake Talbert, and buy yourself a copy today. It's the best $10 you can invest in yourself. I recommend you do it before they try to change the pricing or anything like that. So go get yourself a copy. Like I said, the link will be down in the description so you can check that out. Now, I've been there. Like I said, I've been through all this. I've been sitting in that cubicle surrounded by gray walls, and the humming of the fluorescent lights all around me, and feeling like I was kind of shrinking every day. I had these great problem-solving gifts. I love to mentor people, but I kept them in a box because I thought that's not what they want from me here. I thought I had to wait for some magical, perfect opportunity to finally let myself, let them out into my work. But here's the thing that really flipped everything for me. I started weaving my gifts into my day, helping my teammates, understanding, tough concepts, simplifying chaotic processes, bringing some actual humanity to our meetings, and everything started to shift. My work felt a little different. My results changed. My relationships changed, and new doors ended up opening for me that I was able to go through. And I'm not the only one. There's tons of research out there that backs this up that says that people who use their strengths at work, even if it's not their exact what their role is meant to be. Like, they're 6 times more likely to be engaged and 3 times more likely to say yes, to have this excellent quality of life. Even when they're not in a dream job. The truth is, most fulfilled people, they didn't wait around for that perfect role to just show up. They learned how to bring them whole selves, like their entire authentic self, to whatever work they were doing in front of them. They didn't ask for permission. They didn't wait for the right conditions. They just integrated it, and they saw how things changed for them over time. So today I want to share with you these 7 strategies that you can use. You can start weaving into your natural strengths into what you're already doing without quitting, without flipping your life upside down, without waiting for someday. And like I said, they're going to come straight from the Giver Method, so they're built for real life, for the busy parent, purpose-driven entrepreneur, and the employee who wants to feel alive in the work that they're doing again. So once again, if you want to dive deeper into that, you can grab it off of Amazon. Go check out the link below. You can also check out thegivermethod.com for all sorts of other resources we have for people. Or follow us on social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, under The Giver Method. And if you feel like having some personal support would help you, if you're like, yeah, I want to get out of this burnt out state, this overwhelmed state, I want to start seeing my purpose come to life, then I've opened a few one-on-one coaching spots. You can check out the link down below. There's a link to the coaching page where you can learn more about it. And so sometimes just having someone in your corner is what you need. And so the link is in the description. Go check it out. Of course, if you lead a team, run a podcast, host an event or mastermind, or a space where people gather, and you think this kind of message could serve them, then I'd love to chat with you about how we can bring this to your audience in very real, and actionable ways. So you'll find the link below for speaking and podcasting as well. And then, of course, if you like, if you like this video, please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Leave your comments along the way so we know kind of what you're taking away from this. But hit the bell and ring the bell for notifications and subscribe, because I release videos all week long, and I want to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the content that we put out that could be the thing that unlocks that next step for you. And so with that, let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right in to figuring out how you can bring more of you into what you're already doing. And so the first one is, like, there's the signature strength kind of overlay, where you transform your role through your natural genius, okay? Making your work feel like you again. Have you ever noticed how some things just feel really easy to you? So easy that you almost forget they're even special? Like, maybe you're the person who always spots the connection that no one else sees. Maybe you're the one who brings calm when everyone else is losing it. Or you can take something really messy and make it clear in seconds. Like, that's not a fluke. That's like your signature strength in action. This idea here is it's really simple. Instead of waiting for a new job or a perfect role to show up, what if you just took those natural gifts and laid them out right on top of the work you're already doing? Like, think of your job as the coloring book. Most people try to just stick in the lines and use the colors someone else picked for them. But what if you show up with your own colors and your own style? That's where the magic starts. And so here's the fun part. No matter how strict role you might be in, like they might seem that you're in, there's always a little bit of wiggle room of like how you do it. And that Monday morning meeting, you choose how to contribute. That report everyone dreads, like, you could bring your own voice to it. Your strengths, like, they don't need permission. They're just waiting for you to say, like, all right, let's do this, like, let's go. And so the way you can start doing that is, like, just start tomorrow. Pick one thing on your schedule and ask yourself, if I was doing this from my superpower zone, what would that look like for me? And then make one small move towards that. If you're the connector, speak up and, like, pull ideas together. If you're the peacemaker, help calm the room. If you're the simplifier, turn that mess, like the mess of slides, into some clear, powerful page. Start low key, start with something, but you don't need to make some big announcement. Just do it and see how it feels. For parents, maybe it's that natural, patience when you're dealing with a tricky client. Like, for entrepreneurs, maybe it's rewiring the whole process so it finally feels more like you. Or as an employee, it's like weaving a bit of storytelling into a really dry presentation. Once again, you don't need new tools, you just need a new lens. Because when you work from your strengths, you unlock, like, that state athletes refer to a lot as, like, they get into the flow state, right? You're going to get more done, you're going to feel more alive, you're going to stop dreading the day, and actually, like, you're not adding any more to your plate. That's the most amazing part of this. You're just making what's already on it feel like it belongs to you. And that takes you from going through the motions to actually, like, loving what you're doing every single day and being more filled up by it. Now, our second strategy that you want to think about is there's, like, this stealth value creation system. How do you become indispensable through your authentic, like, giving? Quiet quietly becoming unstoppable. Because it's something that's super powerful, creating value in ways that feel so natural to you that you barely notice. But everyone else does. Everyone else sees it. They come to you for it. They thank you for it. You're so used to not paying attention to it. You're not working longer hours or bragging in meetings. You're just weaving that authentic strength into the cracks of everyday works. And suddenly people start wondering how they ever managed without you. Now, here's what most people get wrong. They think that, that to stand out, they need to play office politics or constantly self-promote or chase shiny new titles. But the real magic, it's being the person who consistently makes life easier, work smoother, and connections stronger, all by using the gifts that just come natural to you. And so picture this, the data person who doesn't, just dump numbers and then turns them into stories that people actually understand. The project manager who doesn't just run a checklist, but makes sure everyone feels heard and supported along the way. Or the parent who transforms the morning chaos into a smooth routine that feels like this mini miracle every single day. That's the stealth value. That's, you're not forcing excellence, you're just letting it flow from where you're already at. So let's talk about how you do that. You start by spotting small problems that bug you, which shouldn't be hard. Like, they should jump out to you. Those little annoyances that there are, that's kind of like your bat signal. That's the thing. Like, if you're naturally organized, maybe you need to build a quick system or create a simple template that saves everyone time. If you're a mentor at heart, grab coffee with a colleague, help them untangle a challenge that they have going on. If you're great at connecting with people, like, start making intros or smoothing over team tensions without being asked. Like, the fun within that is, like, you don't need to announce to the world, or get some sort of official approval to do this. You can just start quietly. Let your actions speak. Over time, people will start noticing that things just work better when you're in the room. Problems don't escalate. Projects actually land smoother. You'll feel the buzz and energy because you're finally using your gifts instead of hiding them. That can show up all sorts of ways. Like, for parents, it might be redesigning the family routine in the morning to feel less like a battle and more like a very easily choreographed dance. For entrepreneurs, it might be infusing every client interaction with some genuine warmth, that no competitor can copy that. As an employee, maybe you're using your strategic brain to help your team spot risks before they blow up. You're not adding to your plate, you're just cooking with the ingredients you already have. Because, when you constantly create value from your strengths, you build this, invisible influence. You don't have to shout out the work. You have to shout that you're doing all these things. You just let the work become your voice. You go from being just another name on the list to someone that people rely on and respect, and that's how real change and real opportunities start showing up for you, just because you're doing one authentic move at a time. And that takes us to the third one, which is there's this parallel purpose track. Running your calling alongside that current role. Bring your calling, that the thing feel like you're being drawn to, into the work you're already doing. Something that might flip your idea of purpose on its head. Like, most people think that they have to ditch their current job to really find or get that perfect title, land that dream job so they can live their purpose. But what if your purpose isn't waiting for some future role? What if it's waiting for you to bring it in the work and the stuff that you're already doing right now? That's this parallel purpose track. It's weaving your deeper calling into the current day that you already go through. You don't need two separate lives. You don't need to stop separating who you are from what you do. Imagine turning the job like you have into this secret lab of purpose experiments. Think about it. You're not trying to force your job into something that's not. You're just looking for those little cracks where your purpose can sneak in and make an impact. That accounting job that you have, it could be your chance to mentor a junior teammate or create tools, that make numbers less scary. If you're in a sales role, that stage, a stage for you to build real and human connection instead of, just pitching products. If you're in an IT job, that'd be the perfect chance for you to, be the quiet bridge builder across teams and make sure communication is smooth. And so, you can do this in all sorts of ways. First, you can get really clear on what your deeper purpose is, where you strip away all the titles and expectations and ask yourself, what am I really here to do? Inspire, teach, create order, connect people. Once you've got whatever locked in, start looking for those opportunities where you can do that. And then start tiny, one interaction at a time, one meeting, one project, wherever you can show up as that deeper version of you. There's all sorts of places that shows up. This matters because when you stop waiting for someday, start living within your purpose right now, you're going to create this purpose momentum. You build evidence of that you can be exactly who you are right where you are. It's going to boost your confidence. It sparks new ideas for you, and over time it's going to lead to maybe roles that match your purpose more closely. It builds, you start just by choosing to show up fully today, authentically today. Instead of waiting for the stars to align, ask yourself, where could I run my purpose parallel with my position right now? Like, what could I be doing? Because your position, isn't some future destination. It's a daily practice. Your purpose isn't some future destination. Sorry, it's a daily practice that you just choose to let in, one small moment at a time. Now, the fourth one is there's a gift task alignment sort of a plan that you put together. Think of it like a matrix you do, where you work your way, just not the usual way most people are probably used to. And that changes, this may change how you feel about the work that you're doing without changing your actual job or burning it all down. You can use this gift task remix, where instead of looking at your tasks like some sort of rigid box that you have to squeeze into, we'll start seeing them as the playlist that you can remix your natural gifts into. You're not adding more to your plate, you're just flipping the how, the how to match your strengths. And when you do that, your work stops feeling like a grind. It's gonna start feeling like something that actually gives you tons of energy back. Most people don't realize, they have so much freedom in the how of what they do. You could write the report like a robot if you want, or you could add some storytelling magic to it. You could run that meeting like a checklist or a drill sergeant, or you could make some space for connection and real conversation. The second that you see this, you realize you've got way more control than you ever thought, and that's such a freeing feeling that brings you more fulfillment in your job you're doing. And so here's what I want you to do. Grab a pen and write down the top 10 tasks that you do the regular things you're doing every single week. And be really specific. There's the Monday team huddle. There's the budget review. There's on Wednesday, I've got that client call. And next to each one, whatever it is, jot down a gift that you have that could make it better. Maybe it's your creativity or your ability to simplify things, to calm the energy, or your sense of humor. And then, this is the key, pick one of those tasks this week and test it out. If you're great at explaining stuff, try turning boring data into that story. If you thrive on connection, start the meeting by asking a very human question before diving in. Notice what happens there. Do you feel more alive? Do people respond differently to you? Does it feel like you're, slogging, or like you're creating? As a parent, this might mean turning after school chaos into the fun system that uses your organizational superpowers. As an entrepreneur, it might mean reworking that client onboarding process you have to include more personal touch points. As an employee, it could be volunteering for parts of a project to use your strengths the most, and bringing fresh energy into parts that you don't. Because when you start matching gifts with tasks, you're not just checking boxes anymore. You're building evidence that helps you shape your work that fits you. And each time you do it, you build more confidence, you gather proof that you can bring more of you into the work that you're doing without permission or some sort of new title. And when you look back and you realize those little remixes, they add up. They turn draining days into really energizing ones, and they transform your work from just the job you have into a space where your gifts can breathe and shine. That's how real change starts. Just one task and one gift and one little remix at a time. Now, our fifth one is there's this progressive permission strategy. How you build confidence through gradual integration. Showing up fully as yourself at work can feel, scary at times. It can feel like you either have to completely hide or you gotta hide things. You don't want to burst in with a megaphone shouting this is the real me, right? But what if there was another way? What if a gradual, safer way to bring more of you into your work without rocking the whole boat just at one time? And so that's this idea of there's a permission ladder. Okay, where instead of flipping the spotlight and thinking hey, I gotta put a spotlight on, it's well, let's look at a dimmer switch that we're just gonna slowly turn on. You're not waiting for your boss or your team or your clients to hand you this permission slip. You're giving it to yourself one step at a time. And so here's the idea: start small, in a totally private way. Maybe it's handling customer complaints. Instead of seeing them as some sort of annoyance, you secretly approach them through this natural empathy lens. That's level one. Your private game, that's it. No one else needs to know yet. And then you can move up to level 2, where you maybe share with a trusted colleague. Maybe you're hey, I've been thinking about this problem in a different way. What if we tried this? Again, that's nothing crazy. It's just a friend test run. And then level 3, you start bringing your authentic spin into team meetings, offering a new perspective, tossing out ideas. Level 4, maybe you now leading a project or an initiative in your own style. And finally, like level 5, like your official role evolves, matching like what you've already been proving you're great at. By then you've shown so much value to people that basically like they're just cheering you on. They want you to do more because it's what you're the best at. For parents juggling millions of things, maybe it just starts with your natural gifts to solve family chaos, like in your own way, sharing the system with your partner, your friends. If you're an entrepreneur, maybe you start by shifting how you run one client call and you build from there. As an employee, maybe it's privately tweaking like how one routine task you have to do before you suggest the approach to your boss or your team. Because it gives you this safe path to build confidence while actually testing and proving your authentic approach and how well that works. You're not taking any sort of risky leap. Every little win is going to build evidence for you and for everyone else around you that this isn't just like a nice to have. Like, it's not just nice that that's there. It's better for the whole team, the family, the business. You stop asking permission, start just showing more impact. That's how you go from hiding in the background to fully owning your lane without burning out or feeling exposed. And then our 6th one is like, there's this energy audit, and I believe a lot in these energy audits. I talk a lot about them in many of the videos we do here on the channel. Using your energy as the integration compass. Like, when you audit this sort of thing, it becomes your GPS of your alignment. Most of us have been taught, like, we got to hustle through work. We got to slap on that smile. We got to wear exhaustion like it's some sort of honor badge that we've earned. But what if I told you that constant drain isn't a requirement? It's actually like a warning light, like on your dashboard. It's blaring as a red flag to say, hey, hold on. That's this like where this energy audit comes in. Like, it's your personal GPS for that alignment. Instead of just checking off tasks, you track how each one affects your energy. Because here's the thing, your energy never lies to you. You might convince yourself like you should enjoy a task, or that you're good at something that actually burns you out. But your energy will always tell the real story of what it is. So here's how you start. For a week, just track the major tasks you do. After each one, give it a score. A -3 would be like, it drains the heck out of you. And a +3 is like, it leaves you buzzing and energized. Like, I'm pumped. Just think of it that way, but don't stop there. Also note like how you approached it. Did you do it in a way that felt natural to you? Or did you force yourself into some sort of expected way of working? Like, patterns are going to start jumping out to you as a part of that. And then comes a really fun part. It's like, experiment. Pick one task that usually wipes you out and go like, hey, how can I do this in a way that plays off my gifts? How could I do this in a way that is going to build me up and energize me? If you're creative, you could go like from boring data entry into some sort of a game. If you're a connector, you could make a meeting more about relationships than just the rigid agenda. It doesn't have to be huge. Even small shifts can change the game for you. Parents, maybe it's bedtime goes from stressful checklist to the cozy storytelling adventure. Entrepreneurs, like client calls from going from just transactional interactions to meaningful connections. And employees, it could be super mundane reports are becoming the stage for clarity and creativity. Because real and lasting success doesn't come from grinding harder. It comes from working in alignment with who you actually are. And when you let your energy just guide you on that path, like you make choices that honor your strength instead of fighting them, like you stop accepting exhaustion as just part of the job. You start using it as a clue that something's off. And when you keep choosing what lights you up, you don't just get through your day, you actually build a life that energizes you inside and out. And like that's a huge win for you. And that leads us to the 7th and final one, principle or strategy we're going to talk about. Like, there's this compound gift effect. That effect is like how small moves create the big waves. This compound gift effect, like there's a big misconception out there. We think that changing our lives, making some sort of huge dramatic leap, like dropping everything to start a new business tomorrow, or quitting the job, in a blaze of glory, like that's what it's all about. But that's not usually where real transformation happens. The real magic happens through small, consistent ways that you show up with your gifts every single day, no matter what your circumstances are. And so I call this gift stacking. It's about layering one little authentic move on top of another until you start building some serious momentum. You don't even notice it at first, but one day you're going to look back at your work or your reputation and you're going to be like, your entire energy has shifted. And there's tons of science that backs this. Like when you consistently lean into your strengths, you actually rewire your brain to make authenticity feel easier. What started as like this scary thing starts to feel normal. And as you get more comfortable, your impact spreads. Like the coworkers who ask for help all at once, like they keep coming back again and again. That new approach you quietly introduced, now everyone's using it. So here's how we make this happen. Think beyond the one-off moments. Embed your gifts into systems and habits. Like if you love teaching, maybe you make one quick how-to guide or share a lesson during a team huddle. If you're a systems thinker, build templates, or frameworks that others can use. If you're a connector, create those casual meetups and check-ins. Start using your gifts, like your strengths as much as possible. Maybe you pair your creative side with your organization skills and make some sort of process people actually enjoy. Or maybe your empathy or your problem solving can create situations where people like they don't just feel this thing, like they want to follow along. Maybe you combo like so whatever that combo may be, these are where your superpowers can shine. As a parent, it might be that weaving your gifts into whatever part of the routine of the day with your kids becomes a culture in your family. Embedding, as an entrepreneur, it's embedding your gifts in ways that help your clients feel your unique touch. As an employee, it's about becoming the person who everyone counts on, not just because you're the loudest, but because of your authentic contributions. These tiny stacked actions, they're truly what builds a life of authenticity and impact and fulfillment. When you stop waiting for the big moment to finally be yourself, start just creating a life where every moment counts. You're not just changing your job, you're shaping who you're becoming. And honestly, that's the kind of legacy that outlasts any job title or resume line that you may have. Now, I want to leave this with you. There's a gap between where you are and where you want to be is actually way smaller than you think. We've been sold this idea that we need the perfect job, the right moment, someone else's permission to finally show up as our real selves. But the truth is your gifts don't need a perfect stage. They just need the chance. They need you a chance exactly where you're at right now. So the principles we talked about today, they aren't just tips. They're this new way of working through things. As you layer your strengths into your current role, you stop forcing yourself into everyone else's mold. You create that value that people maybe don't see right away, but they can feel it. You understand there's no politics needed to move ahead. You just run your purpose alongside where you're at, and you stop waiting for someday, and you just start living your deeper calling today. Now, you don't have to do this all at once. Start with one of these ideas that lifts you up. Maybe energy audit that you need to go through and do. Maybe it's progressive permission strategy, or maybe it's that relationship, building the relationship together as a part of that, making every conversation feel more meaningful. Whatever it is, just pick one. The key is just to start, because the first small authentic act, it's the spark that's going to start changing everything for you. The most fulfilled people, happiest, most people that just are enjoying life, they didn't wait around for some perfect thing to drop out of the sky. They learned to build, we're going to bring our full selves into whatever it is that we're already doing. You don't have to overhaul everything overnight. These people, they just wove themselves into the work that they're doing one tiny choice at a time. And those small choices, they add up in ways you can't even imagine. Now, if what we talked about resonated with you, if you want to dive deeper into that sort of a concept, then that's where I would tell you to go get yourself a copy of The Giver Method on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description, because it's packed with practical tools and stories to help you bring your gifts to life in the real world, in a very human way, with no fluff, no hype, just ways that work for people just like you. And if you want to dive deeper, if you want to hey, I love some more hands-on help with that sort of a thing, then that's where I'd go check out those one-on-one coaching spots that I opened up. Sometimes having a person there that can help push you along faster, who's been there before, is what you need. So go check out the link for the coaching page down below. And then, like I mentioned at the top of the video, if you host a podcast, a mastermind, a community, some sort of event, and you're hey, this message could light my people up, then let's talk. There's a link below where we could connect and explore ways to bring this to the people in your life, the people who are in your tribe. And if this video helped you at all, drop a comment below. Tell me which thing landed for you. I really love hearing those and what sticks, so I can respond to them and kind of make sure we're on the right page. And if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, so that way we can keep showing up in front of you with all of our content. Now listen, your gifts, they aren't meant to stay buried. They're not waiting for the perfect future. They're meant to just be out there shaping your work, changing your life, and impacting the people around you right now. So tomorrow morning, before you dive into the chaos, ask yourself, like, what's one small way I can bring more of me into today? Start there, because like change, it doesn't happen with some sort of big explosive moment. It happens in the quiet chaos that you just integrate, that you just start showing up with, the being real and authentic of who you are. So with that, I'll just say thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I cannot wait to see what you create and what you can become when you start weaving your gifts into everything that you're already doing. And with that, I'll say have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in our next video.